Seattle, I am coming your way March 22nd. I am only doing one tour stop this spring, and it is Seattle. You will be the first to see the new material I have at this show. We're going to have a blast just like we did last time I was there. March 22nd, Seattle at the Hereafter, the Crocodile. It's going to be so much fun. You can get your tickets at jfcomedytour.com, and I have two shows on Friday, March 22nd. The reason I am only doing one show this spring is because we weren't sure if I was going to die. And I could have done like a Weekend at Bernie's tour if that had occurred. I should have booked a tour anyway. I should have just done it. And we've seen the movie. It could work. It's fine. I think that would be just fine. But no, for right now it's Seattle, and then we will book more dates soon. So that should be a lot of fun. And then second announcement, this coming Monday, we are doing our first Patreon live event in a while. You can ask me anything. You know me, guys. I don't care. You can literally ask me anything. Now, I might not answer it if it is like super private and insane. But I don't care if you ask. I'm never offended by people asking. I just may or may not answer. I mean, keep in mind, I hang out in comedy green rooms. I've heard it all. So you can ask anything you want, and it'll be live, and Caitlin will be hanging out for a while. It'll be so much fun. And it is for all Patreon members of all levels. The link to join the Patreon is in the show notes, and you can join anytime, even an hour before the event. You can join the Patreon. And of course, when you join, you get access to all the archives, all previous content on Patreon, and it's for the members at all levels. Patreon.com/thisisjen. All right, the main topic. A lot of people are starting to think about swimsuit season, bikini season. They're thinking about weight loss. They're looking in the mirror and they're like, how did this happen? How did I become this gelatinous blob of a person? There, you know when you do the thing where like you don't even look at yourself in the mirror when you're walking by because you're just like, I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. It's too bad. We're going to do a review of everything I know about weight loss. And I would like to humbly submit. I say this in all humility. I say this with a very deep sense of humility. I have the best weight loss advice of anyone currently alive on planet Earth. I can't speak with authority. Could there have been other people in human history who might have had some insights too? I can't speak to that. But do I have all of the answers and all the secrets? Yes. And let's compare. And I know that some skeptics might be thinking, well, Jen, you are a stand-up comic. And I'm currently following a doctor on Instagram who has it all figured out. Or I'm following the Whole30 chick. What's her name? Melissa Hartwig. She's the one, like, she could pick you up and throw you through a wall with one hand. Very strong woman. I'm following her. I'm following a personal trainer who tells me how to lose weight. Why would you follow that person? Their profession is that they're a personal trainer. They love to work out. Why would you take weight loss advice from them when you can take weight loss advice from me, a stand-up comic with no medical training, but who loves to drink and eat sugar and carbs and has figured out how to do that without becoming corpulent? Who are you going to take advice from? I'm the one you should be listening to. Why are you listening to people? They just love to work out. Like, that's literally what they do for fun. I despise working out. I hate it. I once saw a sci-fi movie about a guy who was a brain in a jar, and I was jealous. All I want to do with my life is drink Pims and lemonade and eat Tres Leches cake. It's all I want to do. I want to do that, and I want to not be physically active. And I have figured out how to not be obese, and that is why I am the one you need to be taking weight loss advice from, even though, sure, I'm a stand-up comic who knows nothing about anything. But I should be your guru. We can't figure out how this podcast is free. I mean, we've been, that's what these doctors should look at. Like, instead of, writing these stupid books that don't work for anyone over the long term about how to lose weight, they need to put their intelligent mind into how is this podcast free? Like, that's the question that we need to answer. Okay, so that will be the main topic. As usual, we get to the main topic in the second half of the show. Look, I'm not even yelling anymore. We get to the main topic in the second half of the show. In the first half of the show, we always hit some just intro topics. One of them will be how I am still alive because I listened to God and my gut instinct. And Caitlin, I meant to ask you this before the show started. Did I already on the podcast, did I tell the Greece story? Have I told that story yet?
The Greece story?
About Greece.
No, I don't.
And about how the Greece trip and me almost dying?
Oh, no.
I didn't tell that on the air.
Of it, they haven't.
Okay, good. Okay. I was like, I did, because I said it on Lena Ruli's show, and I was like, but did I say it here? Okay, good. Because that would be really lame if this is exactly what the topic was last week. Okay, so there's that. We'll talk about that. And then the Reesa Teesa update. Mm-hmm. I told you about her, the woman who had the series Who TF Did I Marry on TikTok. That has blown up every bit as much as I thought it would. Obviously, this is the podcast you listen to if you want to know about what's hot on TikTok. I'm always keeping you guys in the loop. This is just the place. If you want the new trending things, this is where you find out about it. So I have an update on that because that's my whole personality is following Reesa's life. So we have that, and then we'll get to the main topic in the second half of the show. Welcome to the Jen Fulwiler Show. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That's being a hot girl boss, or hot boy boss who knows that love and family and community are the foundations of all true success. I am your host, Jen. I am a best-selling author, stand-up comic, and mom of 6. Caitlin White is our lovely producer, and you can now work with her yourself. We had so many people contacting us, or I would have people messaging me on Instagram and sending me emails, and they'd be like, okay, it seems like you have really found someone who is getting a lot done with Caitlin. I do similar work to you or something in a kind of tangential field. How do I find someone like Caitlin? And I was like, well, how about you just work with Caitlin?
Me.
So catgstudios.com is her website, and that is cat with a K for Caitlin. With a K. Well, Caitlin could be spelled with a C. It's spelled with a K. catgstudios.com is where you contact Caitlin. She is a social media whiz. She's a video editing whiz. I mean, she does like everything. If you are seeing my face on social media, Caitlin probably had something to do with it, or on YouTube or whatever. She does all the stuff. catgstudios.com is her website. And then obviously you want to get on the Patreon for the live that we're doing next week. We have a couple different levels and all of that. That link is in the show notes, as well as the link to where you get tickets to my one show this spring, my Seattle show. So before we get into this, hang on, let me pull up. In case anyone is skeptical about my claim that lots of young men listen to this podcast, in case anyone was like, yeah, I doubt it. Okay, well, let's take a moment to look at the iTunes reviews. Okay, so we have one here from T. Gabriel. I loved this review a lot. He says, Jen, thank you for this amazing show, for your words of maternal wisdom, although they might be slurred words after the Pims and Lemonades. Thank you. And for capturing the importance of village and talking about it in a fun yet poignant way. I, a 26-year-old man, see, and this isn't me. This isn't like my alter ego, typing in these iTunes reviews. This is an actual.
Not me either.
Yeah, it's not Caitlin like this. Okay, he says, so this is a 26-year-old man. He says, I was raised in a home where two extremes were practiced, either extreme independence and emotional isolation or extreme codependency and pandering for others' validation. Your hilarious yet deep observations of life, family, and faith have done so much to help me on my journey and embrace the love of my wife and young children, who I spent years avoiding and being emotionally distant from because I had insecurities and fears of intimacy.
Wow.
Is that like... You know what? I read stuff like that and I'm like, I don't even care that I don't make money on this podcast. Yeah. Like, that is so meaningful to me. That is incredible. And by the way, thank you for being vulnerable and writing that. That is that really touched me when I read that. He says, if my wife hadn't turned me onto your podcast, I would not have learned these valuable lessons about embracing the loving chaos of a village, letting go of the need to control, and rejoicing in the heresy of the podcast, bro. Please pray for me because I still have a lot to learn when it comes to participating in healthy family and community life. And by the way, I think so many of us feel that way. Like we're trying to do something differently than the culture we came from. And we're like, this is like paint by numbers, and I'm painting outside the lines. Like, I don't know what's going on. So that is very relatable to a lot of us. He says, P.S. My wife, who's a stay-at-home mom, thinks it's hilarious that I, an active duty Marine, am a bigger follower of you than she is. He says, by the way, from what I can tell, your leadership philosophies are totally aligned with what we were taught in the Marine Corps. That's actually not shocking to me that a Marine man resonates with what I say on this podcast more than women do. That would be a common thing in my life for me to have that happen. Like people who, Marines, and I say this affectionately, my dad was in the service as well. Marines are known for being like intense and crazy and too much for most people. Not shocking that we click with each other. So thank you so much. I was very deeply moved. There are some other good ones, but I have to respond to this one. She says she wants to, wait, is this the one who said she wants to wring my neck? I think it is. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people feel that way. Get in line. Okay. She says, she says, if I could reach through the phone and strangle you, I might, but then I'd get banned. Yes. You get banned. That's a threat of violence. I'm going to send you a certified letter.
Cease and desist.
It's a threat of violence. Cease and desist. Restraining order. It's a threat of violence. She says, they make family physicians for medical problems exactly like yours, right? Get yourself a primary care doctor. Their whole job is to navigate the healthcare system. This is what that's what she does for a living. And yeah, she sounds awesome. Okay, no, here's the problem. What's her name? LAO22. All right, LAO22. No, the problem is because I have a rare clotting disorder that to be homozygous with that's a medical term. I'm not, like coming out as I'm coming out as homozygous. No homo. Sorry. I'm not even drunk. This is me
totally
sober. Totally sober. There are like 12 people in the United States who have this clotting disorder. So when I try to go to a primary care doctor and get him involved in any way, he does what you do when you see vampires. He makes the sign of the cross and throws holy water on me and runs away screaming. And yes, he is trying to help me get into other hematologists. And that's why I don't have an appointment until May 2nd, because I kept having to go back to my primary care doctor and say, okay, so don't ask why, but I can't go to the one you originally referred me to. And so then he wrote a different referral, but it was to the same like organization. And I was like, you know what? Let's actually just skip this whole organization. And again, don't ask me why. Let's just, could you give me like someone just totally different? So yeah, I have a primary care doctor. He just wishes he'd never met me. That is the problem that we have here. Okay. So, on to the first topic. Let me, maybe I'll save the, okay. I'll do it. Let's go into it. At the beginning of this year, I had the massive deep vein thrombosis blood clot that I have mentioned in previous episodes. Welcome, new listeners. I just barely escaped death. That's what you're coming into. Just you got to catch up. You got to catch up on the lore if you're going to listen to this podcast. So I barely escaped death a few weeks ago. And so at the beginning of this year, I had a massive blood clot that went from my knee all the way up into my pelvis, and I did not know it. It was asymptomatic. Sorry, hypochondriacs. If you're like, oh my God, I have no symptoms. Yes, you too could die at any second from a DVT.
Oh, great. As if we didn't already know.
I know. Like, I had no symptoms. If you have no symptoms, do you know what that means? So a friend of mine who is one of the most delightful people on planet Earth. She's my comedy writing partner. She's incredible, crazy. And I say that affectionately, like that's why we're friends. She said, she contacted me first week of January and she said, hey, in 2 weeks, I am going to Greece. And I was already arranged to go with someone else who they had something come up and they can't make it. She said the ticket is paid for. The hotel room is paid for. You can go to Greece for a week with me, and the only thing you'd have to pay for is just your meals, and that's it. Free trip to Greece, including Santorini, like the place, with the white houses and the blue, like the free trip to Greece. And so she said, you can just completely go with me. And I talked to my husband, Joe, about it. I said, Chapel offered for me to go to Greece with her. And this also fell during the week of my birthday. I would be there on my birthday. And Joe said, at that time, I didn't have any travel in January. And he said, you don't have any other travel this month, or actually in February, there was nothing booked, no shows or anything. I had taken some time off. And he said, we can, the family can handle it, because I couldn't do that during tour season. But I hadn't traveled in quite a while, didn't have travel coming up, which is very, very unusual for me, given my job. And so it kind of seemed like the stars were aligning. Free trip, going to Greece. It's my birthday, and it is very rare for me to have these periods where there's just no travel. I am not going anywhere. And so, because normally it would be like, I'm in the middle of tour. There's no way I could even think about being gone an extra day, let alone an extra week. So seemed like those stars were aligning. So then I did what I have learned to do over the years. I got in touch with my gut instinct. I prayed. I just did that thing. It's a combination of, I don't know how much of this is God, how much of this is my subconscious. I don't know what that mix of things is, but it's the thing where you break out your hippie meditation app and you sit there for 5 minutes and you try to have no thoughts about anything. And thoughts will come to mind and you're like, no, not right now. Not right now. It's like someone handing you a package and you don't open it. You're like, I will. Yes, I hear you. Yes. Oh, there is water boiling downstairs. Okay, we'll get to that. And just don't continue to think about any thought that comes to mind. You just swat it away like a fly. So you do that for 5 minutes. Listen, sometimes the hippies are onto something, and this one is good. This one is good. The whole, meditation, clearing your thoughts. I did that. And then after just 5 minutes of meditating, I guess that's what that is. After about 5 minutes of that, I thought, okay, I need, my friend needs an answer, and I just need to think about what, if I'm going to go. And I did the thing where you imagine both paths. I imagined going, and then I imagined staying home. And usually if you did your 5 minutes of hippie time, usually when you imagine going down both paths, one will make you feel more calm when you imagine going that way. And I was like, I'm not going to go. I don't know why, even though all the stars are aligning. I love this friend of mine. We have so much fun together. It's my birthday. I'm not traveling. In fact, Joe was almost pushing me to go. He said, the semester just started with the kids. It's not super busy. They had no activities. Wide open opportunity for me to take a free trip to Greece. But my gut instinct said, it's for absolutely no logical reason. My gut instinct said, don't do it. Don't do it. It's just not, don't do it. It was about 10 days after I would have returned from Greece that I found out that I had the massive blood clot.
That's insane.
Yeah. If you know anything about deep vein thromboses, you know that travel, especially international travel, often causes them. Like people who did not previously have one will get one. And if you have one, the absolute worst thing that you could possibly do would be to take an international flight. Oh, and my friend on her trip back, she ended up having all of these crazy delays and situations. She got super just dehydrated and exhausted. And I would have been caught up in that too, not hydrating, not taking care of myself because you're like sleeping at airports because this flight got canceled and blah, blah, blah. Knowing what I know about how DVTs work, I truly believe, I very deeply, sincerely believe that if I had gone to Greece, I would have died. I truly believe this because the guys in the ER said that with a DVT, that length and that size, it was one of the most dangerous types because it was so long. It wasn't like blocking blood flow, so I didn't have symptoms, but it was massive when you add up, the length and how far it went. And so they had said if it had broken free, you're not surviving, like 0% chance. I mean, you don't survive that. That's what the guys in the ER said. And so if I had done flying, I'd probably fly from Austin to New York. I mean, that's a long flight in and of itself. New York to Athens, and then, stay like running around. I don't know if you drive or fly to Santorini or whatever, but then doing all those flights back. I really believe that DVT fairly likely that it would have broken off. And now it would be iconic to die in Greece. I mean, I have, if you got to go early, like that's like, oh my God, Jen died in Greece. And then you guys could one up people to, they'd be like, well, I had a friend who passed away. Like, well, mine died in Greece. So, I mean, some of us we live kind of elevated lives over here. As iconic as that would have been, glad that I'm still here to do episode 196. So you wouldn't have an episode 196 if I had taken that flight. But I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that I probably wouldn't have made it back from that trip. And it's just crazy that I turned down a free trip to Greece when my husband was encouraging me to go. My kids were incredible. They were like, yeah, you've worked really hard. You just filmed your special. You've done a lot of work on it. Like, yeah, go, like, have fun. There was no reason for me not to do it. And on my birthday, I ended up doing nothing for my birthday. I did nothing. We didn't celebrate. We didn't go out to dinner. I did nothing. And as I was sitting there on my birthday, I remember thinking, that's strange. It's strange that I'm not in Santorini right now when I otherwise could have been. And by the way, it's funny, I talked about this on Lena Ruli's show, but he's the host on SiriusXM. A lot of you guys know who that is. He was the one person who told me not to go. Everyone else said you should go. This is this is a great idea. And so everyone can give him credit for that. And of course, and if you know anything about this guy, of course, he's like, taking credit, like, next time he needs a favor, he's like, yeah, no, it's good. But if you can't help me out on this, it's totally fine. I just saved your life. But no pressure, it's fine. It's fine if you can't, help me on this. But I will say, like, see, God speaks even through Lena Rulli. But that's wild. So the lesson is listen to your gut instinct and listen, do the hippie meditation thing. Be like the hippies. Meditate when you're trying to figure something out. Put on your Brain.fm app. Use the code GENF to get your discount. Get your Brain FM app. Put it on the 5-minute timer and think about nothing for 5 minutes. And when you come out of that, you would be surprised how much better you know your answer. I think it's because we can actually hear the voice of God when we shut up. And that's what the kind of new age people will never say. I think it's like, it's about shutting up your own voice so that you can actually listen. It's interesting. A lot of us, even those of us who have faith, even ironically, I think it's almost sometimes the most religious people are the most mouthy in their prayer life. God, they're always like telling God what to do and just talking his ear off. You know that God is up there like, oh my God, shut up, I mean, like, he has to be. But yeah, that's what meditation does. It teaches us how to listen. And just because it saved my life, don't feel any pressure to do it in your life. All right, let's talk about what's going on with Reesa. So we talked in episode 195 about how it's my whole life and personality is following Reesa Teesa's content. If you're not familiar, she went on TikTok and started doing 7 and 10-minute videos about how she married this guy and thought he was really great, thought he was the one, and turns out everything was a lie. Everything was a lie. Just search. If you go on TikTok and you type in R, it will come up. Yeah. Like I think it's Reesa M. Teesa, but I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, this is like the biggest thing I've maybe ever seen on TikTok. Actually, I am not sure that I have ever seen anyone go viral at this level. Period. I mean, in the past 20 years, I mean, back when emails went viral, I don't think I've ever seen anyone go as viral as Reesa. And so let me set it up. If you haven't had a chance to listen to episode 195, basically, she met a guy and it just seemed like he was exactly like what she was looking for. And so he said, let's buy a house. So they were looking at these houses. And then right when they were about to close, coincidentally, he didn't like the real estate agent anymore. What do you know? That kind of fell through. And then he said, let me get you a BMW. Actually, she named the specific kind of car she wants. We'll see if Caitlin approves. BMW X5 with Cabernet. I think it's Cabernet, some kind of wine, like Cabernet interior. Do you approve of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so if anyone wants to get that for Caitlin, she would be willing to drive that. And so he said, yeah, we'll buy that for you. And then, what do you know? Just coincidentally, he actually told her that he talked her into getting an Audi. He told her that the Audi would be delivered at 3 p.m. She was waiting, like looking out her window like a child, like waiting at 3 p.m. Turns out the whole thing was a con because, he'd said he could pay cash for a nice house for them because he'd made some investments. And so she was super excited. Oh, this is awesome. My husband, he has some offshore money that he invested in some offshore places. He can pay cash for a house. This is wonderful. And then it all started falling apart. So she makes a statement here that I want to play about how feeling a sense of urgency led her to overlook a lot of red flags. Those of us who don't have the support system that we need very often get in a habit of urgency. We constantly walk around feeling like rush. I got to go. I got to do that right now. And so you can do that on the micro level with, just not finding shoes for your kids and telling them to just get in the car, which I used to do all the time. Or on the macro level in life, if you're like Reesa, she was dating, she was tired of the dating scene. She really wanted to be married. So she felt urgency at that macro level. It wasn't about not taking the time to put on lipstick or something like that, but it was more about feeling that urgency just in life in general. And of course that comes from like what they call scarcity mentality. Like there's not enough goodness. There's not enough abundance. So here's where she talks about actually how her faith came into play as well. This is a great clip. Let's take a listen.
Your helpmate. And I was like, God, you taking too long. I want to get married. You taking too long. I want to have a family. You taking too long. And these are the consequences that I'm paying for basically telling God, you took too long. And I feel like God's grace is sufficient. It is. But at the same time, and I'm not perfect. I mean, not perfect at all. None of us are. But I do feel like when I sit back and I replay the events that happen, I truly cannot believe that was my story.
Listen up for this part.
Because all I wanted was to meet a guy, for him to be my best friend, for us to get married, have a family. I wanted someone I could make fun of his big old forehead and he make fun of my nappy head and all my wigs, and yet he was my ride or die. I wanted someone that I could be like, man, help me with these kids, and he helped me with the kids. We had a nice home. We were comfortable. That is what I wanted. And I've said this before, and I say it again. I truly thought I truly hoped it was my turn. You see the women who are, so happy and, they're in these loving marriages and life just looks good. I really, really wanted it to be my turn. And so I excused away a lot of stuff that I hope the next woman who sees this does not excuse, because I don't wish this on anybody. I don't wish this on anyone.
All right. Yeah. So first of all, this is why she went viral. That kind of candor, that kind of honesty, that kind of humility. I mean, just what a delightful human being. And all of her videos are like that. It's why we were all so addicted to them. And if you haven't watched them, you really should. She's so thorough. It's like she is a thorough woman. And as we discussed last time, I don't think she should be too hard on herself for missing the red flags, because you can listen to episode 195 for this, but red flags were meant to be discovered in the context of a village. Red flags were meant to be discovered in the context of a village. You were never meant to see all the red flags yourself. And I think that's why there's a running joke among young people today. Many of my comedy friends are in their 20s, so I'm pretty familiar with what's going on in the young single dating world. And it's a running joke about people missing red flags. Like, how did I miss all of these red flags? And it's like, well, your parents live 2,000 miles away, and you don't have siblings, and you don't have cousins and aunts and uncles here in this town. And, red flags were meant to be discovered by the group. And in Reesa's case, it was during COVID, so that's how she missed them. But there was an element that, like she said, she wanted it to be her turn. She saw all these other people who had something that she really wanted, and she started to get panicked that what if it doesn't come for me? What if I don't find the person? And all throughout her 50-part series, and I meant to update you. I did watch all 50 parts. I watched all 50 parts. TikTok does have a feature where you can watch on 2x speed, and I did that, but I watched everyone. I didn't miss a one. One of the things that she often talks about, how faith and her belief in God came into play. And what I think is interesting is that I think all along Reesa was kind of wanting this, wanting to feel seen, wanting to feel cherished, wanting to feel special. And it's interesting that early on, when she first started dating this guy, I mean, this was 2020, years ago. When she first started dating this guy, she felt the inspiration to start doing voice memos about just what was going on in her life. Just think out loud, leave voice memos. And it is because she had all those voice memos, that's how she was able to tell this story in such pristine detail, because she had the inspiration, through all this time, through all these years of being married to a con artist, she had the voice memos. And she pretty clearly intimates that she thinks that inspiration was from God, that was a God-sent inspiration to leave the voice memos. And I don't want to imply that being in a happy marriage and having children with a loving partner can be replaced by waking up to millions of followers and being rich and famous overnight, but it doesn't hurt, you know? Okay, so the official BMW account, because she said she wanted a BMW X5 with a cognac interior. Official BMW account has been posting about her, and they're like, really? Maybe we can find an X5. Like, I think she might get one.
I really hope for her that she does.
I know. Oh, I thought you were going to say, I really hope I can date a con artist and go viral.
I mean, that too, but
it's not too late for you, Caitlin.
Never too late.
We'll set you up with a real loser of a guy, okay? And then you can go and do some viral videos about it, and just make sure you mention the exact make and model that you want in there.
I just need someone to let me drive a Porsche. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, Porsche. Okay, so yes. So, I mean, I feel like we're kind of seeing God work in Reesa's life here. And it's a good lesson in when everything falls apart, when something that you really wanted, it seemed like you were going to get it. and then it fell apart. Don't sink into despair. You need to get in touch with your gut instinct and your faith and just kind of go deep, do the hippie meditation, and ask what feels right to do next. And not just what feels right, but what feels like, to use Marie Kondo's phrase, it sparks joy. Like, what would spark joy? Like, what is the next move that just feels like it would spark joy? And especially if it is related to turning your pain into love of others. You just watch how quickly the blessings start to flow into your life when you take some absolute garbage that has befallen you and you transform it into love of others. You just watch. You watch how quickly things start falling into place for you. So in Reesa's case, she was very depressed. She was in a lot of pain, of course. And what sparked joy for her was to say, you know what? I'm going to tell this whole story. One, kind of for the entertainment of others, but mainly so that so many other women out there who miss red flags will hear this story and maybe make some different decisions for themselves, maybe stand up for themselves earlier on. See, she took her pain, and rather than just going and drinking 7 Pims and lemonade in one night, I don't know who would solve problems that way. That sounds really irresponsible. I hope nobody would ever do that. That would be insane. You could pass out. You could feel really terrible the next day, I guess. I mean, I don't know. So instead of doing that, she said, let me take my pain and put it in service of other people. Now overnight, she is rich and famous. And don't we all see it coming that she's going to meet a man through this? Because now just so many people know about her. We all see it coming that I bet she'll meet a man who says hey, I had something really similar happen to me from the other direction. And look, here's my birth certificate and my social security card. And I am legit,
my accounts.
Yeah. And because that's what we're all doing after watching the Reesa story. We're looking at everyone we know who really are you? Who really are you? Oh, yeah, you live next door, right? Why do I never see you outside at night if you really live next door? We are all, we're looking at the mailman, but who is that really? What is his backstory? Yeah, exactly. But and so not having that feeling of feeling rushed and just fostering the sense of I don't need to rush, because either I'm going to get what I feel like I kind of need here, or if I don't, if it's a crushing disappointment, which does happen in life, let's not act like, this isn't one of those podcasts where it's well, I believe in God, so everything always works out. No, sometimes God lets our lives turn into dumpster fires. Why? It's a mystery. That's honestly, that's one of the reasons I became Catholic, because they were we don't know. I was kind of going to the Catholic Church when I was an atheist, yeah, but what about horrific suffering? And they're yeah, we actually are not sure. It's a mystery. And I was that's kind of a refreshing answer, honestly. I appreciate that. So why does God sometimes let our lives be dumpster fires and everything turn into a horrific, crushing disappointment? It's not even poetic. It just sucks. Why? We don't know. We don't know why. But I can tell you this. That when that thing that you wanted and you thought you had, when it doesn't work out, there will be a way to get the deeper need met in another way. Reesa's deeper need was just feeling like someone's got you, someone's got your back and they see you and they validate you. And yes, it is a legit disappointment. She did not get married to the right man. She does not have kids. This is serious. Nothing to downplay there. But she did save so many women from being played by so many bad guys. And now she has so much love, so much adoration. I mean, all 5 billion people who are on TikTok are all just we love Reesa. They're sending her love. They're sending her encouragement. And so it's not exactly what she wanted. She has not yet had these hopes and dreams fulfilled. But A, I think she will. I think this has opened a door for her to meet the right guy, have a family, have everything she dreamed of. But B, she has gotten a different type of love. You do still see her getting those needs met in a different way. And so that's why when we're trying to rush things, when we're trying to do what Reesa says she did, I don't think she was that bad about it, but she feels like she was rushing God, that she was like, I see all these other people, they're so happy and, they're being amazing and they're having so much fun. And I want that for me. So I'm going to rush it with this guy. When you take comfort in the fact that your needs will be met one way or the other, you don't need to rush. You can take steps, you can move forward, but you don't have to have that panicky, overlooking red flaggy kind of feeling when you know that this need will be met more or less, in some form or another, and God is not going to completely leave me hanging. That can help you get in that no rush frame of mind. And I hope that is helpful. And I hope that you're now going to pause this podcast and binge all of Reesa's content if you haven't already. Okay, before we get to the main topic, I've been doing Hot Fire on the Village Hustle Patreon. Episode 29 was about getting out of survival mode. I no longer have an excuse to be in survival mode. So what does it look like to get out of that? And then the episode coming up next week. So it'll be this coming Monday after this episode comes out, same day as our Patreon Live. I'm doing an episode called What If They Hate Me? I had to fill in for a comic, a young famous TikToker. The local comedy club called me down to fill in for his shows. So it was me going on stage in front of a bunch of people who did not want to see me perform and with whom I have absolutely nothing in common. And I had to make them laugh. Like, a good benchmark is 4 laughs a minute. So that's a challenge. It is easy to get in your head that these people will hate me. They won't want to see me. They'll be so disappointed that I'm here. So that's what the upcoming Village Hustle Patreon is about. How do you get over that? When like, how did I get out of the mindset that these people will hate me and into a mindset that would help me do well? And by the way, I did really well. They loved me. It was great. All because of the mindset that I laid out on the Village Hustle Patreon, patreon.com/thisisjen, and the link is in the show notes. That one will be out Monday. Okay. Can I begin our main topic with a slight tangent? Just a slight. Of
course. Here we go.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay, that's our tangent alert.
Tangent
New
alert.
Listeners. Yes, it's a very special sound effect. We have an incredible suite of sound. What's the sound effect for when I get back on track after a tangent? Yes. Hey, listen.
Coming in clutch.
Yeah, coming in clutch. Absolutely. It drives me crazy to the point that I might make comedic threats of violence when I see people lying on social media. And the latest thing is all these celebrities are losing weight and they are hitting us with the biggest load of BS you have ever heard in your life. And for my Catholic Ghetto listeners, that stands for believability suspect. They are hitting us with the biggest load of BS about like, I live an active lifestyle. And why do I care? Why do I get? They're obviously on Ozempic. Why do I care? Okay, because one of my core values is authenticity. That and core values are an important thing to know about yourself. It's kind of a guiding principle of it's just some element that it really bothers you when it does not exist in life. And it's something that drives a lot of your decisions and it drives your happiness. Like if one of your core values is, integrity, you wouldn't want to work at like a strip club or something. I mean, well, there are probably other reasons you wouldn't want to, but if just integrity is being a classy, upstanding person, like following the rules, if that is a core value of yours, well, that does tell you certain things about the types of industries you might want to be in, the way you want to run your family, the values you'll pass on to them. So knowing your core values is actually a really valuable thing in life. And I've told you before, one of the ways to know your core values is to look at who you hate on social media. Look at the stuff. It just makes you so mad. Probably the reason it makes you so mad is because there's a core value in there. So, for example, I am not bothered by Ballerina Farm. You guys know this. I'm actually a defender of hers. That she does her little perfect life all day, every day. She's hotter than us. She's thinner than us. She is like, slopping hogs, and then she comes in and still looks hotter than us. Like, she'll give birth in the morning, slop a hog in the afternoon, help, take out a cow's placenta in the evening, make pasta for like homemade spaghetti for the pasta dinner that she's doing tonight, and still look hotter than all, like if all of us listening to this podcast combined our hotness, she'd still be hotter than us. So, and she's doing all this while carrying a baby. And that bothers some of you guys. And I think it might be, think about that. Okay, if Ballerina Farm gets in your head, I'm wondering if it's because one of your core values is orderliness, like tidiness, having kind of a nice, pretty, orderly home. If that matters to you, if that is important to you, if that is critical to your psychological well-being, then I can see how Ballerina Farm would get in your head, because she's crushing you. She is like you are failing compared to her. Like, you're not getting it done. Your house seems so trash in comparison. And so that, I think that could be a sign that maybe that's a core value of yours, either orderliness, or maybe you have a core value of cooking the most wholesome food possible or something. I can see how she would get in your head. Now, for those of us who have no core values in those areas, I am a slob. My house is usually trash. It does not bother me. I don't care. I think that's why she does not get in my head, because Ballerina Farm does not touch on any of my core values. So she doesn't, trigger me, as they say. But you know who does trigger me? Oh, these women. I mean, I'm serious. It makes me so angry. It's honestly kind of funny how angry it makes me when these influencers and these celebrities, they are obviously on Ozempic. The minute it hit the marketplace, they had their entire lives, they struggled with weight. Like, since they were 13 years old, they've been public about this. Always overweight, always heavy, always had food addiction issues. Ozempic hits the market. They suddenly lose 40, 50, 60 pounds, and they are subjecting us to all their blah, blah, blah about how they are living an active lifestyle. I would say it would turn me into the Joker, but that's the kind of statement that can get you banned from reputable institutions. It makes me crazy. And you know why it makes me crazy? I realized one of my core values is authenticity. I don't care what anyone is into. I just don't like it when people lie about it. It drives me crazy when people, you know what it is, especially if someone achieves a result that other people might like to have in their life, and then they lie about how they got that result, that's what it is. You know what, Caitlin? Maybe it's not authenticity, although I think that is a core value of mine. Maybe it's more generosity of knowledge is a core value here. It's like if you went out and you figured out how to make $1 million a year by posting selfies on Instagram, and then you lie about how you did it, like, that's really annoying, because the rest of us would like to get in on that, and so it drives me crazy. You know what it is? These girls lying about being on Ozempic it's the equivalent of when some 25-year-old is on Instagram talking about how, they thanks to their atomic habits, like they made all this money in real estate and like blah, blah, blah. And what they don't mention is that their daddy gave them an $800,000 check to get them started. It's like, oh, okay, well, you kind of left out a really big piece of the puzzle there, bro. And I feel like that's what these Ozempic women are doing. It makes me crazy. So that is how you find your core values. When you find stuff that just sends you into an absolute tizzy, ask yourself what core value is being touched on there. Okay, so Kelly Clarkson has lost a lot of weight. Caitlin, if you can find a Kelly Clarkson before and after, if you can Google it and put it up, you can, for both of our YouTube followers to see, jfonyoutube.com. So we'll see if we can find that. But you get the idea. Kelly Clarkson had a bit of a weight issue, and now she doesn't. This is what she is subjecting us to. She says, this is from an article. It says, Kelly Clarkson has shared some strategies that contributed to her recent weight loss. Yeah, that's a good one. She credits several factors that contributed to losing weight, including exercising, eating a healthy mix of food, and allowing herself occasional treats. Did she have an AI bot write that? How many times have we heard that? I just ate healthy food and exercised and occasionally allowed myself some treats. Here's the jfonyoutube.com. Here are the before and afters. I mean, she looked fine in both pictures, but she has lost weight. She's lost weight. Man, there's something about that drives me crazy. I think it's because, not only that she's lying, but I guess it's like, haven't we all tried that? Haven't we all tried that?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you have ever lost weight and kept it off from like, I just ate a healthy mix of food and exercised more and occasionally allowed myself a little treat. If you have any issues with food addiction at all, the occasionally allowing yourself a little treat, you will be 4 Pims and lemonade and 3 Tres Leches cakes in before you know it. When you have food addiction issues, there is no allowing yourself a little treat. It is a slippery slope that ends in a dumpster fire every time. There's no a little treat. Like, come on, stop lying. Okay, so you guys should know that this, you're going to laugh when you hear this is actually from the article. You know what else she credits with her weight loss? What do you think of, like, what would be if we wanted to make sure that Jen was max tortured by this lying? What would she say that would most send me into the stratosphere?
Ooh, there's a lot of options here.
Well, I hate so many things.
Family support, though?
No.
Oh, does she do ice baths?
Ice bath. She did ice bath. She is saying that she does cold plunges. Ugh. And that's how, after an entire lifetime of struggling with her weight, suddenly, right after Ozempic hit the marketplace, she's super thin, and really it's her ice bath. All I want is to hold these people accountable. I will show up at her house. I will break through the gate, not in a stalker way. I'll explain to the security, like, this isn't creepy. This is just, I just need to do this for my mental health. And I'll be like, hey, Kelly, I heard that cold plunges are a key to your weight loss. Could I see you do one right now? Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep showing up every morning, and I want to watch you do a cold plunge every morning. Far be it from me to imply that this is a bald-faced lie, and you've maybe never even done a cold plunge in your life, or if so, once or twice, and you're like, this sucks. Like, hit me up with the Ozempic, like, this is the worst. But could we just get some video, some time-stamped video of you doing the cold plunge, since that is so key to your weight loss? It makes me insane. It makes me crazy. So first of all, I'm not opposed to Ozempic at all. I think it's great that it's on the marketplace. And if you have struggled with your weight, especially if you have food addiction type issues, I think it might be a solution. I think it's great. I just think it's annoying when celebrities lie about it, because I'm always looking out for you guys. I'm always thinking of my podcast listeners and what you struggle with. And if I'm very protective of you. And if I thought that even one of my podcast listeners felt bad about herself because some celebrity was lying about her healthy lifestyle, I just lived a more active lifestyle, and like one of my podcast listeners tried that and it didn't work because it's all a lie, and then she felt like she's a loser because she can't get it done, it would make me lose my mind. And especially if one of my sweet fans did an ice bath because some lying celebrity told them that this is how they lost all the weight, I could never forgive myself. I could never forgive myself. So let me just say that if someone has struggled with their weight their entire life, and then somewhere between 18 months and a week ago, they suddenly lost 60 pounds and are keeping it off, it's Ozempic. It's Ozempic. It's always Ozempic. And again, I have zero issues with Ozempic. I just have the issue with them completely lying about it. Now, I'm going to summarize for you guys everything that I know about weight loss. And again, I'm the one that you should be listening to on this. Let me review my qualifications on this subject, because it's always important to ask when you're taking advice from anyone, does this person have any idea what they're talking about? And more importantly, does this person have any idea of the struggles that I might go through on this issue? Again, if you're listening to someone who has always played sports and been fit and they work as a personal trainer and that's what they choose to do with their life, that's great. They have a lot of insights to share, but they probably have not been through the same struggles that you have been through. What you want is someone who has given birth to a whole bunch of babies, has very severe untreated ADHD, probably Asperger's if we're being honest, major food addiction issues, and definite serious tendencies towards alcoholism that she barely keeps under control. Now, if that person can figure out how to keep some weight off, you need to start taking notes. Here's my background. Genetically, the women in my family, there's not a lot of obesity in my family. There is a tendency to be about 10 to 15 pounds overweight, like just enough to complain about it, you know? It's like if you were really fit, the women in my family, if we were super fit, tip top shape, we'd be a size 6 or 8. But it's normal for us to drift more like size 12. So not, again, we're not getting into obesity, but we are not naturally skinny people. I was never the skinny kid. It was never, I was never like the super skinny kid. I was always the one who wore a bigger size than all of my little skinny friends. And I was like 4 inches taller than all of them and had a perm. So life was really fun for me. It was incredible. And that is how you end up in stand-up comedy with the amount of bullying that leads you to. And I do have tendencies towards food addiction. I've said on previous episodes, I'm going to review a lot that I said in episode 150, the weight loss episode. So I believe that food addiction is a spectrum. There are some people who are at 0, like my personal trainer, Dana. I think she's Fit Foodie McCoy on Instagram, so you can see how hot and fit she is. When I work out with her, we're always chatting. And I asked her, I said, is it hard for you to keep up with your workout routine? And she actually said no. She's like, no, I just enjoy it. I like doing it. It's not, maybe sometimes I kind of don't feel like doing it, but I get it done anyway. And I'm like, that's like me with scrolling TikTok. It's like we all have things that I'm like, well, I don't know if I have time for it, but you get it done. And she is so fit. I'm so impressed with her. But that is her, like, so she's like a 0 from what I can tell. Maybe she's like a 5 on a scale of 1 to 100 of the food addiction spectrum. And then there are like the people on my 600-pound life. I think they're like a full 100. They kind of can't stop eating once they start. I've said before, I am probably at about a 50, maybe even a 55. I'm somewhere in that range. It depends on my level of cravings, but there are definitely times, by which I mean like 4 times a week, where look, I've never done heroin, but it's hard to imagine that you could have cravings stronger than the cravings I have for food. It's like the idea of not eating that second plate of lasagna. It's like, it's not, I don't, for those of you who aren't on the food addiction spectrum, I really don't know how to describe it, except to say it's almost like you're blinded. To say that I would make a choice, like I would rather eat that lasagna or breadstick or whatever, rather than have $100 bill, or rather than, go meet the Pope or whatever. All of these things are true, by the way, when I'm in that cravings mode. To say that my thought process is like that is not even accurate, because it implies that I am thinking at all. I'm dead serious when I say I go into kind of an animalistic mode where nothing else exists except for this breadstick and the little creamy cup of Alfredo that's like, right. I hope no one's hungry listening to this. And this is not all the time. It's not 24/7. It's if my body chemistry is such that I've been triggered into cravings mode. And by the way, it's not just about pure hunger either. There can be times that I am hungry. I'm like, oh man, I really need to eat, but I am not in cravings mode. I don't do that blind thing. I could make a decision like, you know what? I'm not eating breadsticks today. That looks amazing, but I'm not going to do that. So that's hunger. That is different than cravings. Hunger is different than cravings. So when I get triggered into cravings mode, it is true addiction in the most literal sense of the word. I am blinded to this desire. Nothing else exists. I mean, this is actually not an exaggeration. I could smell smoke and suspect that my house was on fire. And I'd probably dip the breadstick in the Alfredo real quick and like have a bite before I like went and investigated it. I mean, it's like the addiction is at that level. That is what so many people don't take into account when they give you weight loss advice. I've never heard anyone, not any of these books, not nothing. No one ever asks you where you are on the food addiction spectrum. And then that will impact everything. Because if you're at a 5, like my trainer Dana, then you can follow almost any diet. Do the Mediterranean diet, do the South Beach diet, do a Whole30. Like you have tons of options. You just need a little bit of willpower. You'll get it done and it'll be fine. But if you're like me or higher on the food addiction spectrum, you are going to need a whole different thing. You're just going to need a whole different program. And I never hear anyone talk about that. This is an issue for many of us of addiction management more than it is an issue of just like what we think of as weight loss. Like, I need to plan my meals. Like, it doesn't matter what the meal plan was. If I go into cravings mode, I am going to be eating like I'm a robot, like I'm an AI robot who is only programmed to shovel food into my mouth. And I will like knock over this stupid plate of like, ooh, I had some seared cod with a bit of like, oh my gosh, I'll like throw it out the window, as I go like heat up some garlic breadsticks. Like, this is an addiction thing. I know how to make healthy food. Everyone listening to this podcast knows how to make healthy food. Obviously, we know how to do it. It is our addictions that keep us making different choices. And by the way, I actually meant to start with this, that I also want to give you permission to be at, to desire to be, and to work to be at whatever weight feels comfortable for you. And I think it's great that in this day and age, we have a clue that women can look super hot when they're not super skinny. I think that's wonderful. But now there's kind of a backlash if women want to be thin. It's like, oh, you've got body dysmorphic disorder. You've got anorexia. Like, no, the reason that I try to stay on the thin side of things is due to my body type. So there are different body types. There's there's apple, there's pear. My body type is sack of potatoes. I gain 2 pounds and it's just blah, like it's over. I mean, the rest of you guys, you can look cute and sexy when you gain some weight. You go from your little black dress to a curvy black dress and it's sexy. Me, I go from little black dress to moo-moo. There is no in between. It gets real bad real quick. And that's why I need to stay thin. And it's not because I have body dysmorphic disorder. It's not because I'm anorexic. It's because I don't like looking like a lumpy sack of potatoes with a belt on it. That's why. I'm not, I used to apologize for that. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up, Don't apologize for wanting to be at whatever weight you want to be at. Maybe you want to be at a higher weight, elbowing people out of the way while you have the second bacon cheeseburger. Fine. Don't apologize for that. So listen, it's weight. If you want that bikini body, which by the way, it's funny that I'm about to title this episode Bikini Body, but I've never worn a bikini, which is kind of funny. I'm too pale. I've never worn a bikini because I'm so pale that I'm not sure if it's legal. Me and a bikini, people would be like making the sign of the cross, like they're throwing holy water on me. They'd be like, what is it? You cannot wear a bikini. But yeah, I've never worn a bikini. I've never even tried one on because I know that it's not fair to society. Like you can't be this pale and like put one of those on. Okay, so let me think about how to slice this to summarize the galaxy brain knowledge that I have about weight loss so that you guys can start getting whatever kind of bikini body you want. All right, principle number 1. It is about controlling your addictions. If you are low on the food addiction spectrum, if you can't relate to what I was talking about, how when you become seriously, quite literally, like blinded in the sense of being unaware that anything else in the world exists other than this food, where it's like you have a visceral, emotional, and manic need to put this creamy object into your mouth. That sounded way weirder than I meant for it to. Okay, so anyway, if you have never been there, you are probably pretty thin and you are probably not listening to this episode. I mean, you're probably only still listening because like you're in prison and like this is how they're punishing you is by pulling up my podcast. So I would imagine if you are still listening, you have had those moments. It is hard for you to control yourself around certain foods. And so the name of the game is controlling your addictions. Here is what I have found. There are 2 ways to do it. One is you can go through the painstaking process, which takes forever, but is worth it, to find out what foods lead you to a no addiction state. This is difficult to do, and if you're wired like me, it'll take a long time to figure out, but you will kind of be shocked when you find out it's possible. I'm about to blow your mind with this statement for my fellow food addiction people. Listen to this. It is possible to eat for days and days and weeks in a way that you do not think about food. You eat a very small amount of food, you feel full, and the idea of eating even 6, 7, 8 hours later, it sounds actually gross. Like, because you're just full. You're full. And you're full on a very small amount of food. And what's interesting is when I'm eating in a no addiction diet, your stomach is about the size of your fist. Look at your fist. That's all you need to eat. This is how big your stomach is. And when I am on no addiction food plans, I actually feel full after about like a fist size of full. Like the other day I had a small baked potato, a really tiny one, and I added lots of butter, a little bit of cheese, and some egg yolks on it. I found out that egg whites trigger addictive tendencies in me, but not egg yolks. So I had that, but it was a small potato, again, a little smaller than my fist. And when I was done eating it, I hadn't had anything to eat for 8 hours before. And when I was done eating that food, I could not imagine that anyone would ever eat more than this small potato. It was like, what? Like what? No, surely nobody would. No. Normally in my mindset, my food mindset, I just keep eating until I'm like about to vomit. Like I just keep eating and eating because it's about getting that serotonin boost, getting the dopamine hit. And but when I eat no addiction foods and I'm in a no addiction space, you can actually eat to where you have a very small amount of food and then you look at it and you're like, why would I eat any more than this? I'm full. I really didn't know until I did it that this was even possible. I really thought that just everyone had to struggle terribly every time they sit down to eat. I just thought that's how life is. And when I figured out what foods trigger cravings and stuff in me, and I cut all of them out, which is the vast majority of foods available on planet Earth, it was like a whole different existence. So for me, no kidding, it's like 10 foods. I mean, I can do potatoes. I'm actually okay with most dairy. I can do potatoes, cottage cheese, some shredded cheese, egg yolks, salmon, I forget what else, but so the way I came to this conclusion is I kept a food journal where I would just write down what I ate and how I felt, But I found a journal that has tags in it. This is so nerdy. I know I'm losing most of the people. It's so nerdy, but it works. It works. I would tag like crash. If I crashed after eating, I'd tag crash, or I'd tag headache, or I would tag cravings, meaning I really shouldn't be that hungry, but I am ready to tear through every sweet thing in this house and eat an entire pint of ice cream to myself. I would tag that. And so I started looking. That's how I realized I have a sensitivity to salicylates. Like, it doesn't matter. What are salicylates? Who cares? The point is I can't eat them. And it's like, or I can, but it triggers cravings in me. So broccoli, spinach, they have salicylates in them. It makes me feel weird. It makes me crash. And then it triggers cravings. Like, I'll be eating a pint of ice cream if I have a big bowl of broccoli. So that is one way to do it. It's hard and it takes a lot of planning. But I will say, listen, this is the only podcast where you get the real scoop. Okay, listen. I don't recommend losing weight quickly, doing like rapid weight loss plans, because you will gain it back if it's too hard. But if you ever need to lose weight quickly, that'll do it when you eat like an absolute no cravings food plan. You'll definitely need to cut out all simple carbs. Like, they definitely trigger cravings in you. Let me just tell you, all carbs, simple carb, like processed, like breads and stuff, anything bars, anything packaged. If it comes in a box or a wrapper, I do not care how healthy it is marketed. Don't eat it. Like, none of that. And no rice. What else did I cut out? I forget what else. So basically eat meat and vegetables and really limit your fruits, and then watch for stuff you might be intolerant to, like how I found out I'm intolerant to broccoli and stuff. Doesn't mean I can never have it, but I'll just like really have cravings and probably end up binging later in the evening if I have broccoli with dinner. So when you discover all this stuff, you will probably find there are very few foods that you can eat that don't trigger cravings, but you will have total peace in your life when you eat on that plan. Like, if I were to, I did 2 weeks where I had salmon, steak, potatoes, egg yolks, I forget what else. I tried to vary my diet. I took supplements, all that. Ended up having a ton of blood work due to the blood clot. My health was perfect, other than the almost dying, but it wasn't from nutrition. And I lost, I shouldn't even tell you guys how much I lost, but I lost 10 pounds in a week. Probably a lot of it was water weight. I lost like 15 pounds in 2 weeks. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend it. I'm just saying that it's possible that you could craft for yourself a no cravings eating plan. It will probably only include max 8 to 10 foods, but you'll just eat. You'll be like a normal person. You'll be like your friends who are naturally skinny, that you'll just be like, oh, I had about a fist size amount of food. Who would eat more than that? Who would do that? Like, what? That'll be you if you find your zero cravings food and eat according to that plan. The second thing I have found that works is intermittent fasting, because it does take some willpower to do intermittent fasting, but at least you can just entirely take food off the table. That's the nice thing about fasting, is there's no moderation. There's no, I'm going to start eating this, but then I'm going to stop. It's I'm just not eating. I'm not eating until this time. You can read the books by Dr. Jason Fung and, of course, Jen Stevens. I love her book, Delay, Don't Deny. They both say very similar things. Dr. Jason Fung and Jen Stevens. I love them both very much. So you can read about the health benefits of fasting. Ever since I started doing intermittent fasting in 2017, it's just how I eat now. I lost 45 pounds. I've kept it off since then. At 10 pounds or so sometimes comes and goes, but for the most part, I've never regained more than 10 pounds of that 45, and it was all because of intermittent fasting. And again, I had every blood test known to man as trying to figure out what was eventually the blood clot. We couldn't figure out why I felt weird. And my blood work was unbelievable. The doctors were like, yeah, something else must be wrong, because you have the blood work of someone who is 20 years your junior. They're like, you are in incredible health. And I've done intermittent fasting every day basically since 2017. So I love it. I would do intermittent fasting even if it weren't for the weight, because it just gives me more focus. I just don't have to think about eating. I don't think about eating until the end of the day. So I can just get more done. I can just block it out of my mind. So that is another track you can go. If you're trying to get your bikini body, that's another track you can go, is to, I just really recommend reading Jen Stevens' book. Oh, people in the iTunes reviews talk about how they read that book and now they lost a lot of weight and kept it off. This is like the main service I do on this podcast. Okay, so I am realizing there's more to unpack here, because I had a whole thing I was going to tell you about how so much of how people perceive you is your attitude and that persona, that, je ne sais quoi that you put out there. But we are an hour and 15 minutes into this podcast. So you know what? I will say that for another topic. But basically, the name of the game is Control Your Cravings. Julia Ross has a good book on that. Look up Julia Ross on Amazon. Control Your Cravings, and or do intermittent fasting. Do not listen to the people who tell you to like push willpower, like it's all about willpower. Do not listen to those people. It's really, the name of the game is controlling addiction. And when you start approaching it from that perspective, you will have the bikini body that you've always desired in no time. And I will be back with you next week. But don't forget, we are doing the Patreon Live on Monday. That should be fun. You can ask me anything. Link is in the show notes. I will be coming to Seattle Friday, March 22nd. Can't wait to see you there. All of that stuff is on my website. Just start with jfcomedytour.com. You can find everything from there. All these links are in the show notes, and I will be back with you next week here on the Jen Fulwiler Show.